Yo, guys, in this video, we're going to talk about the enemy of happiness, and it might be a little bit different than what you actually think this is. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be jumping into the book, The Daily Stoic, and we're going to be pulling from Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor of the Roman Empire. And he was arguably one of the original Stoics. He's the person that most people are most familiar with when you think of Stoicism. He's the most popular individual for this from his personal diaries, which later became a book that we all read from, which, by the way, I think is really interesting that we have the capacity to go through people's personal diaries and gather the wisdom. And what's cool about this is when you're gathering wisdom from a person's diary, you got to understand these were thoughts that he kept internally to himself. Like, this was his writing from him to help him navigate the worlds and the hardship of essentially ruling the largest empire in the world at that time. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump right into it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Marlon Johnson, and this is the Daily Studies. So come and study with me. Take a look at this. This is the Daily Stoic for February 17th, and it's the enemy of happiness. I'm going to read it at the top. I'm going to break it down. And what you read is it's quite impossible to unite happiness or happiness with a yearning for what we don't have. Happiness has all that it wants, and resembling the well fed, there shouldn't be hunger or thirst. That might make zero sense to you. I promise you, we're going to come back and read through it. But let's just go down below. And I'll read, I'll be happy when I graduate, we tell ourselves. I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when this diet pays off, when I have the money that my parents never had. Conditional happiness is what psychologists call this kind of thinking. It's like the horizon. You walk for miles and miles and miles and you never reach it. You won't ever get any closer. Eagerly anticipating some future event, passionately imagining something you desire, looking forward to some happy scenario. As pleasurable as these activities might seem, they ruin your chance at happiness here and now. Locate that yearning for more, better someday, and see it for what it is. It's the enemy of your contentment. Choose it or your happiness. As Epictetus says, these two are not compatible. All right, let's go back and let's actually break this down piece for piece, because I agree with it. When you're constantly putting your happiness on this far out event, and it's going to be a someday situation, it's going to be when I get there, then I will be happy. When I achieve this, then I will be happy. You're setting yourself up for failure from both a actually achieving the goal and getting to the milestone, and also from enjoying the process. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, for example, I'm in sales, and if I'm always telling myself when I get my first sale, then I'll be a good salesperson. When I go and close the deal, then I'll have the confidence and conviction. The problem is every day that I show up and I put in the work and I'm attempting to close the sale, talk to the next lead, prospect, do all that stuff, the energy I show up with is going to be the sort of energy that's going to really lead to rejection. It's going to lead to people feeling that I'm either just after the commission or I'm coming at them with my own interest at heart. Instead, if I start to believe truly and like I understand that, hey, in this moment, whether you buy from me or not, I'm good, right? Like, I can walk away from this sale with a smile on my face, whether you buy or whether you tell me to go kick rocks. And that starts to change the dynamic of the conversation. I start to show up with more joy, with more pleasure, with a better attitude. And inadvertently, that actually leads to me getting more sales. So happiness is something similar. It's almost like a self-fulfilling loop. So let's just go back up to this top reading, because it's interesting what's said here. It is quite impossible to unite happiness with a yearning for what we don't have. So, in other words, if you're constantly stretching out and yearning and you're focused on your lack, it's really hard to be happy when you keep focusing on lack. One of the greatest exercises towards happiness, towards satisfaction, is gratitude. It's just having a practice of gratitude, daily gratitude. This is waking up, and it doesn't need to be this whole elaborate 3-hour morning routine situation. It can simply be the first words that come out of your mouth are thank you and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I can breathe. I'm grateful I can wiggle my toes. I'm grateful that I had a bed to sleep in last night. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. If you're homeless, it can be I'm grateful that today it's not raining. If it is raining, it can be I'm grateful that yesterday it didn't rain and hopefully the rain's going to end. There's always something to be grateful for, and it becomes a practice to focus your attention towards what that gratitude is. So essentially, if you're yearning for what you don't have, you're focusing on lack, which is going to hurt your happiness. Happiness has all that it wants, and it resembles the well fed, right? Resembling the well fed, you shouldn't be hunger or thirst. So, in other words, like if you're in that place of gratitude, if you're in that place of you're self fulfilled, it's kind of like, I spoke about this actually a couple of episodes ago. It's kind of like you don't have a craving anymore, right? Like after you've eaten a good meal, you don't have a craving. Even if more food is presented in front of you, that's like the best food in the world. The craving for more has gone away, and that's a really cool place to be. I can tell you from personally, I get the opportunity to live like this most days. Not every day, right? I'm still human, but most days I genuinely wake up and I feel good about where I am in life. And that's regardless of the actual circumstance. So let's keep going here and let's just come back to this. We start looking at the author kind of talking about, Ryan Holiday talks about these conditions that we put on ourselves for happiness, right? I'll be happy when I graduate. I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I buy the new car. I'll be happy when I move into the new house. I'll be happy when I go from New York to Florida. And then when I go from Florida to Colorado, and then when I go from Colorado back to New York, I'll be happy. I'll be happy when the kids are born. I'll be happy when the kids get out the house. I'll be happy, right? Like there's so many things that we start to link conditions to for our own happiness, which is interesting. Tony Robbins used to say this. He said, the greatest failure is to have success without fulfillment, right? The greatest failure is having success without fulfillment. In other words, it's meeting those conditions and then realizing when you get there that those conditions weren't actually the thing you were searching for. So if I keep going through this, you're going to see right here where it says that conditional happiness is what the psychologists call, in a kind of thinking, walking towards the horizon, trying to get to the end of it, trying to reach the horizon. And if you think about this like picture, if you could picture this in your mind, that you're on an open field and you see the horizon way out in the distance, doesn't matter how quickly you walk, doesn't matter how long you walk, doesn't matter how far you walk, you never actually hit the horizon. It is always going to be something in front of you. It's always going to be something you're stretching for. So essentially, if you're creating the conditions around you to be like, when I get there, then I'm good, you're always going to be in this position of I'm never good, because there's always somewhere to go. So what's interesting is I want you all to understand this word. It's a word I recently learned. It's called autotelic. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you can actually read this definition. Autotelic, as an adjective, it stands for having a purpose that's internal, not separate from itself. Or put another way, look at this. It's an activity for creative work. It's having an end or a purpose in and of itself. So when you think about autotelic, if I really break that down into simple language, autotelic's when an individual is able to engage in work, engage in a practice, engage in any sort of activity, and the actual engaging in the activity is the reward in and of itself. So this is, think of Kobe Bryant. When he was playing, he wasn't necessarily playing with the thought process of, I want to go and earn multiple rings. Instead, the thought process he's playing the game of basketball with is, I want to become the best player to have ever played the game. Every time I play, I'm playing to learn and I'm playing to improve. Therefore, practice in and of itself was the reward for him, leading him to become arguably one of the greatest basketball players on the planet. As an entrepreneur, it's the place where you start to make business the goal in and of itself versus simply just making the money. This is where, as a salesperson, you make getting better at sales and human psychology the goal in and of itself versus actually closing the deal. By nature of becoming a more autotelic individual in business, really in life, you're going to naturally progress at whatever it is you're doing because, again, showing up and practicing becomes your reward. So you're no longer linking the output to your happiness. You're actually linking the input, actually doing the activity towards your happiness. And again, Simon Sinek talks about this when he referenced the infinite and the finite frames. And you talk about these two kind of players. You got an infinite player and a finite player. And a finite player will always lose to an infinite player because, again, I'm going to use one more analogy. Think Forrest Gump in that movie where he just starts running. And people are like, where are you running to? Like, where are you going? He's like, I don't know. I'm just running. Right? Like, that's a person who's going to outrun everyone else because a finite player is playing towards an end. And they will always lose to a person who is just playing because they love playing. In fact, I would argue that is how you win the game at the highest level, is entering into a infinite game and becoming an infinite player. Just like, how do you win at the game of marriage? It's not by getting to 10 years of marriage and then now like you're done. You don't have to date your partner anymore. You win the game of marriage by staying happily married. You win the game of business by staying in business. You win at sports by staying mobile and being able to continuously progress at that sport. It's the same concept here. It's the same principle. So let's bring it back to this one more time. I'm going to switch back over to this tab and just look at what's red right here. It's right. Eagerly anticipating some future event, passionately imagining something you desire, looking forward to some happy scenario. As pleasurable as those activities might seem, right? In other words, like dreaming about something far off in the future, as pleasurable as it might seem, they have the tendency for most people to ruin your chance of happiness, because it is always, always, always this thing that is not with you. It's always this thing that you're trying to grab. Happiness is a now thing. So locate that yearning for more, for that better, for that someday, and see it for what it is. It's the enemy to your contentment. And by the way, I'm not telling you don't want more. I'm a person that always wants more. I'm excited about constantly growing, learning something new, being somewhere else, constantly climbing the mountain. I love that kind of stuff. What I'm just expressing is your happiness can't be linked to the destination. It's got to be linked to the journey if you're looking for true happiness, true satisfaction. And I promise you, you show up for your goals very differently when you're in alignment. When you're good internally, you just show up as a different person day to day. And here's the thing. I don't want you to just believe me. I want you to test this out for yourself in the laboratory of your life. Go ahead and experiment with this. Like, actually just start seeing like, hey, can I just be grateful and happy with where I'm at right now? Even if where I'm at isn't where I want to stay, right? Can I just start to find joy and happiness in the present moment? If so, what you will discover is you're going to show up differently. But you let me know. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. I would love to hear your feedback. And again, if you got value from this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this out with everybody. I feel like that is the most common call to action in YouTube land, but it's my call to action because genuinely I want you to pass this message on to other people if you're getting value. And also, just letting you guys know, if you're ever interested in joining these sort of conversations, and it's not just a one-way, but you want to have a conversation with a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, you want to have a conversation with me, the best way to do that is to go and click the link down below in the comments to join MMC. It's the community I put together. We jump on Zooms every day. Typically, I run the call on Mondays, but I've been doing a lot more bonus calls. The bonus calls on Tuesdays through Friday. I do that as my schedule allows, but I'm always there on the Monday call, running a coaching session, answering Q&A, and I made it so freaking easy for people to jump in. It's $1 to try it out for a week, $50 a month afterwards if you like it. So less than $2 a day, less than a cup of coffee to be able to connect with people that have the capacity to grow you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So if you're interested, go ahead and click that link below to join into the Millionaire Mindset community, or just type mmc.mindsetmarlin.com, and I'll see you inside the room tomorrow morning. And be back again for another episode of the Daily Study.